All right, welcome back to another edition of Baseball for Maniacs. This episode, as we hinted in the previous podcast when it was me and Ryan, it will be a Chase Utley versus Dustin Pedroia. Who is the better player? I think you guys can guess who I think is a better player and who Ryan thinks is a better player. But let's put pen to paper and get it done. Ryan, I'll let you start off.
Now, let me go on and say this before we even get started. Both of these respective ball players are our respective childhood heroes. So there's a lot of bias that goes into it. Like, there was a reason why I wasn't so lenient in giving him the second base option when we did the all time lineups, which, if you haven't checked out, go check that video out. That was a fun one. Yeah, basically, what I have for Dustin Pedroia is obviously it's kind of accolade filled. I'll give Chase Utley this right now. When you look at the hitting stats, it's kind of it's not fair. Uh, Dustin had a better average. Dustin was more of a slap singles doubles kind of guy. Chase had more pop in that bat. But don't let that discredit Dustin Pedroia. He could go yard when he needed to. But basically, obviously he was an MVP in 2008, and I think he finished as high as seventh his next go around. Like, that was his highest finish next. But he finished ninth in one of the years, and then he finished seventh in 2013, where he had a 301 average, he had a 372 on base percentage, and he had a 415 slugging. Like I said, seventh in MVP. That was his fourth Gold Glove and his fourth All Star appearance as well. So I think that a lot of the times people look at OPS and people look at slugging percentage and they kind of blow it out of proportion. Now, of course, slugging is important. Extra base hits are huge. Home runs matter a hell of a lot more than singles do. We all know this. This isn't a secret. However, there are guys who literally made their careers and won MVPs just solely based off being the hitters that Dustin Pedroia was, like he did in 2008, where he hit 326. And if even you want to go on to the OPS kind of stuff, his MVP year, he had an 869 OPS. So if you want to go into that type of thinking as well. And again, if you want to pull up Chase's hitting stats, go right ahead. I'm sure he's had a couple 30 home run seasons. I know Chase had a 35 game hit streak, I believe it was in 2006, which is God tier. That just doesn't happen. But overall, they're very similar in a lot of ways. But Dustin is much more of a winner, and it shows. It shows. Whether you wanted to talk about the individual accolades or you wanted to talk about even like team success, which we know really isn't based on one individual player, but still, even if you wanted to look at that, he's got more in that variety too. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. This is just going to be a point on the winning point. So anytime Ryan says anything and I feel like I need to jump, that's what we're going to do. But we're two respectful guys. We're going to raise our hands. We don't scream at each other. In the postseason, let me pull up Dustin Pedroia's postseason stats. Am I on the right tab? Dustin Pedroia. My Wi-Fi freaking sucks. Oh, it's Baseball Reference. Bear with me, guys.
While Owen's
You know,
looking this up.
keep going on your tangent. I'm going to try to see if I can find the right tab, and then I'll raise my hand again.
I was gonna say, while Owen's looking this up, if we're gonna talk about his rings for a second, one of my favorite quotes of all time from Dustin Pedroia, he was playing the Mets, and David Wright was running his mouth a little bit about Dustin being a short king, and I hinted to this quote a little bit in the lineup video that we did, but he said, and I quote, "You know how tall I am when I stand on my effing rings, right?" Now, how can you not love Dustin Pedroia? He's a short king. You and I aren't necessarily the tallest people in the world. And he has another one, like people asked him if he wanted to be bigger or not. And he said, asked him if he always wanted to be bigger. And he said, no, I always wanted to be a miniature badass. Which, come on,
So,
that's tough.
so tough quotes, right? And, with his 2 championships over one, cool, right? Now, do you know Dustin Pedroia's career OPS in the playoffs? 687. And I'm a big OPS guy, and I know you preface this video by saying, Dustin Pedroia, you value defense just as much as offense. Chase has the offensive side. I like guys that slug, right? Chase Utley had a 774 OPS in his playoff career. Dustin Pedroia had a 687. So yes, he has more rings, but when it came time to be a postseason player, Chase Utley clears Dustin Pedroia.
I mean, yeah, sure, but how much of that is strictly based off of that one run that he had in the 2009 season, I believe it was, when he hit like 400?
Sure, so let's get into that. So OPS in 2007, 490 for Chase Utley, really bad. Only in 3 games when we got swept by the Colorado Rockies. That was tough. '08 when he won a championship, and that was an entire playoff run. 851 OPS, not too shabby. And then 2009 when he was Jesus on the baseball field. Uh, and I don't want to do any blasphemy. I'm a Christian myself. 1,072 OPS. 2010, not so good, 658. But 2011, granted that was only 5 games, he had a 1,200 OPS. And then he struggled with the Dodgers playoffs, but he was a spotty player. So it's not just '09.
Yeah, I'll give you that, but I'll go back to that 2007 season when you guys got swept by the Rockies. You know who picked you guys up in that World Series? It was Dustin Pedroia and the Boston Red Sox. In game
Uh,
one, Dustin Pedroia ripped a huge home run off of a man named Jeff Francis, which leads to a different Dustin Pedroia quote, actually, because he forgot his ID when he went to Coors Field one day, and they literally wouldn't let him in because they were like, dude, we don't know who you are. He looked at security and said, go ahead and ask Jeff Effin Francis who I am. I'm the guy who just ended their effing season and then walked right into the clubhouse.
he didn't have to do Jeff Francis like that. Rocky's leg. Come on. But
Dude,
that's tough.
look,
Can I give a Chase quote?
go for it.
And it's really the only one that's ever out there. And we don't like to cuss on this podcast, but we're going to do it. World champions. World fucking champions. That's all you need right there. That one quote takes Dustin Pedroia's quotes out of the equation. Even though they're tough, that is the toughest quote ever said by a Major League Baseball player.
I mean, he just said world fucking champs.
Dude, but when a guy like Chase that doesn't say anything finally opens up his mouth and is in front of a packed CBP crowd celebrating a world championship, the first championship in at that time 28 years. Come on, man. But we're not all about quotes. Quotes are tough, but quotes don't define a player. So let me see this. Okay. We talk about peaks, right? Dustin Pedroia's peak doesn't even sniff Chase Utley's peak from 2011 to 2007 to 2012. Let me get the stat. So actually, this is from 2005 to 2010. He still killed in 2011. There were 5 players who had the most WAR. Can you guess who they are besides Chase Utley from 2005 to 2010? I'll give you the team that they're on. The number 1, he was on the Cardinals.
Pujols,
Pujols. Number 3 was on the Yankees.
A-Rod.
A-Rod. Number 4 was on the Rangers at this time, but he went to the Angels and the Braves.
The name that came to
And the
mind
Yankees.
immediately was Josh Hamilton, but then you said Braves and Yankees.
Signed with the Yankees in '09.
Oh, Tex.
Tex. And then number 5, Minnesota Twin. You'll get this.
Mauer. Is Mauer or Morneau?
Mauer, Joe Mauer. And Utley was number 2. He accumulated 45.5 WAR in those 5 years. And we want to talk about MVPs, right? Chase Utley, this 2011 season, and I've talked about this on the pod, he had a 976 OPS in 132 games played. You can make the case that he should have won MVP over Jimmy Rollins in that year. I'm not going to dispute that because J-Roll is J-Roll. That was an unbelievable 2007. But if he didn't get hurt, he would have had an MVP. And he had a 100-point higher OPS than Dustin Pedroia in his MVP year. I get it. Defense matters, but I don't think in this case it matters that much because Chase Utley was a damn good defender. And you might say Chase Utley's signature play came on the defensive side. Game 5 of the World Series, Iamura hits one up the middle. Utley ranges to his backside. He knows in his internal clock that he's not going to be able to get the runner at first, but he has the baseball IQ to fake the throw to first and get Bruntlett at home.
No,
That's in the biggest moment might have saved the World Series. Yes, sir.
Now I'll piggyback off of like great plays and stuff like that. You can talk about one great play that Chase Utley made. I can name five that Petey has done. And even in the world, look, and even honestly, one of my favorite plays that Dustin Pedroia ever made ended in an interference call, and it makes me mad to this day. But in that Cardinals World Series, when we had that interference with Will Middlebrooks at third. Will Middlebrooks, you can go to hell. But Dustin Pedroia, nobody remembers the play that this absolute animal made. He infield was in because the runner was on third. I think it was a second and third situation, so infield was in. So whoever was at the plate rips it. Petey absolutely lays out full extension. He's only like 5'9", so that's not a lot of dude. So he reaches out full extension and snags it, gets up on a knee, dart to Saltalamacchia, who I believe was at the plate for the game, and gets the runner out at home, which was initially the game-saving play. But then the interference play happened, and then we don't got to talk about the rest. And then even one of his greatest plays of all time, it wasn't even in a playoff game, I don't think, but he was playing against the Rangers, and Carlos Gomez hit a little dribbler up the third baseline, and it was fielded by Devin Marrero. Shout out Devin Marrero, Red Sox legend. And he absolutely airmailed the throw. So what does Dustin Pedroia do as a great people just don't necessarily talk about that play as much as they should. He saved Clay Buchholz's no hitter with a diving snag up the middle and got the guy out at first base. This guy is he's a magnet to the baseball. It's one of those things where he rarely made any type of error. He never really made an error at the plate either. But it was like I don't see where the higher OPS and the higher slugging can really come into that much of a difference when the guy that we're talking about where defense really matters has 4 gold gloves to Chase's 0. And I'm not disparaging Chase. I love Chase Utley. I loved watching Chase Utley growing up. But you gotta understand something that Dustin Pedroia, yeah, he's better defensively. Chase Utley is a better offensive second baseman. But when you put the two of them together, I think that Petey's just that much better all around.
Okay, so I love that tangent. I love you going into 1,000 plays on Dustin Pedroia, but let me end that argument right here. Do you believe in WAR as a stat, right?
I have no choice but to at this point.
Gotcha. Do you believe in DWAR, which specifically just measures the defensive value they bring to the game?
I'm going to be completely honest. I'm still learning all the wars, so I got to be a little bit more informed on D War.
Gotcha, because this is going to discredit the point now. Chase Utley career has a 17.4 DWAR compared to Dustin Pedroia's 15.5. Now, I am not in any way saying Dustin Pedroia is a bad defender. He's an elite defender. But when you throw gold gloves in my face, I'm going to say this. Derek Jeter won so many gold gloves, and he was quite literally one of the worst defensive shortstops of all time. I think Petey deserved those gold gloves. I just think Chase played in a better defensive league to where he wasn't able to accumulate that kind of stuff, to where Chase Utley, I will probably still give you all time Dustin Pedroia is a slightly better defender. But when Chase Utley's offensive stats so greatly outweigh Dustin Pedroia, and then the defense is that close to where even he has a higher DWAR, I think you got to give it to Utley. I know how you feel about Dustin Pedroia. I feel the same way about Chase. I just think there in no world is Chase Utley or is Dustin Pedroia a better player than Chase Utley, and I think it will show when Chase Utley's elected to the Hall of Fame and Dustin Pedroia is not. That's going to be my
It
only, like, the rest of my argument, because I don't want to get too much into discrediting Dustin Pedroia because I love the player.
Well, if that's my thing.
Final thoughts, Ryan?
If Chase Utley is a Hall of Famer, then so is Dustin Pedroia. Like I don't I don't get that argument how Chase is going to be in and Dustin won't. If we're going to do it that way, then Dustin deserves it a hell of a lot more than Chase does. Because if you want to throw the metrics in my face,
No.
who gets into the Hall of Fame? Who gets in? Who? Hang on 1 second. Who gets into the Hall of Fame? The guys who win, the guys who have the accolades. There's a lot of guys who should be in the Hall of Fame that aren't in the Hall of Fame strictly because of that reason. And if you want me to name one of them's Andrew Jones. But to be completely honest,
Okay.
if Chase,
Unbelievable.
yeah, but here's the thing. Chase Utley, if Chase Utley's a Hall of Famer solely based on his hitting stats and his D WAR, then Dustin Pedroia is a Hall of Famer based on the accolades, his career batting average, and his overall winner career. Please.
So I thought batting average doesn't matter to you.
Well, here's the thing.
Did I
When you
get you?
want to No, you didn't get me because I knew I was going to sound incredibly hypocritical when I'm talking about that. But that's what I have when it comes to Dustin, when it comes to out hitting Chase. Career wise, he has 11 more points on his batting average than Chase does. But the on base percentage and the slugging, it's a bit more lopsided. So yeah, I kind of have to take average where I can get it. Dustin is just overall a better average hitter. He's the guy that's he's not gonna be the guy that gets the RBIs or gets the multi home runs and stuff. He hits second or leadoff in the lineup. So that's why the RBI numbers and the slugging and the all the other stuff doesn't look as inflated.
So I said I was done. Well, I'm not done because I forgot to lay these stats into you. You said accolades, right? Chase Utley has 6 All-Star appearances to Dustin Pedroia's 4. Utley had 6 Silver Sluggers to Pedroia's 1, and Chase Utley had 4 straight Silver Sluggers from 06 to 09. Now, that's hitting, right? And I get that. I personally just think hitting matters so much more than defense, especially when the defense is so close and they're both elite defenders, which I believe they are. My whole point is going to be, I think overall Utley was a better player. I think you can't deny that his peak was better. And the championships, I just don't think can be a argument in baseball that much, especially when Chase Utley has a higher OPS and better stats in the playoffs, and it's only 2 championships to 1 championship. That's going to be my final argument. I will let you end this episode with your final points. But at the end of this episode, we're going to let you guys decide because in the end of the day, we think these guys are legit players of all time. We love Dustin Pedroia. We love Chase Utley. I happen to think Chase Utley's better. Ryan thinks Dustin Pedroia is better. But we'll let you guys decide. Final thoughts, Ryan.
Before I get into my closing arguments, we can both make the case that both of our guys were robbed by a lot of injuries. There's a couple of seasons where Dustin should have been an all-star, realistically. Like his 2016 year, the guy had an 825 OPS and for some reason didn't even get MVP votes, didn't make the all-star team. I don't get it, but I'm not a voter for a reason, I guess. But you know, we talk about this a lot on the podcast when we speak on current players in the MLB. We've talked about it when it came to Bryce Harper. We've talked about it when it came to Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto. And again, I'm not disparaging Chase when I say this, but there is nobody that can lead a ball club the way that Dustin Pedroia leads a ball club. His absolute dogfight energy, regardless of the situation, is the reason why the Red Sox were such top contenders. Even when he wasn't playing, he's in the dugout yelling and screaming, being an absolute psychopath, just rallying the boys. I remember like he was the only guy to get Big Poppy off of the field when he destroyed the phone in Baltimore.
That was
He was the
insane.
only guy, and honestly, shout out Petey for not dying on that play because he was directly next to the phone when Poppy started to explode.
That's why he was so pissed. He almost died.
Yeah, like Dustin, like you know how much like he's 5'9", $160. Do you know the type of cojones you gotta have to approach Big Poppy and tell him to chill the fuck out? Like, dude. Anyway, back to my more important thing about it. Chase is a leader, bona fide, sure, but you can't spell leader without Dustin Pedroia. We're not talking about his college days, but even if you wanted to go back to his college days, this guy was rallying troops at Arizona State. This guy had been rallying troops all throughout the minors, and when he got to the clubhouse, the guy was an immediate leader. How often do guys get called up right away and they're just the ultimate clubhouse guy immediately? Yeah, he could have been a little harsh sometimes, but you need hard asses in your clubhouse to get you to the point to where you need to be. Dustin Pedroia is a nutcase. He used to compare himself to Barry Bonds, and I'm not even kidding. Like, he thought he was on the same playing field as Barry Bonds. And you need that level of insanity to be a Major League Baseball player. And he absolutely was insane. His work ethic to get back onto the field after blowing out his knee, his work ethic to get back on the field after getting swiped by Machado, his overall drive and willingness just to be the leader and heart and soul of the Boston Red Sox is the reason why I hold him so close in my heart. I don't think we win a couple of those championships without Pedroia. What you can throw his playoff stats in my face all you want, sure, but again, his defense matters more than anything. This guy was not letting anything go by, and it got to a point to where we were like, you know what, Dustin, you might not be that great of a hitter in the postseason. Let's go get Ian Kinsler, and then we won another one. But either way, Dustin Pedroia, to me, if it wasn't for his injuries, the Hall of Fame argument would be no question. I think Dustin Pedroia is a Hall of Famer solely based off of his dirt dog mentality, the way that he hit the ball. Because if you still want me to be hypocritical about batting average, Ichiro Suzuki is one of my favorite baseball players of all time, and that guy is easily a top 5 hitter in Major League history, and it's not even close. Argue with a wall. Batting average doesn't matter in today's game. But when Pedroia was coming up, and when Pedroia was the man, and when Chase was the man, batting average was a lot more prominent in the game. A lot more people were worried about triple crowns than they were 40 or 50 home runs in a year. We saw Miguel Cabrera do it, and it was special. Dustin Pedroia was never going to be a triple crown winner. He was never going to be a guy to hit 30, 40 home runs. He was never going to be a guy to get a $130, $140 ribbies. But he was always going to be the guy that was always going to be the last out, and he was going to be gunning it down the first baseline, and it was going to be a close play, whether it was a ground out to the second baseman or even a pop up to the catcher. He was going to be on second before the ball was even caught. He does have his moments. His first at bat actually in the World Series was a home run. That was the Jeff Francis home run. And then in the same ALCS in Game 7 against the Indians at the time, now Guardians, there was a clutch Game 7 home run that blew our lead open to 5-2, and then we ended up winning 11-2. He comes through when he needs to because that's what leaders do, and that's what winners do. Chase Utley has won in his career. Chase Utley has been on successful franchises. Chase Utley probably should have gotten more MVP votes than he got in his career. There probably should have been a case where Chase Utley could have been an MVP, but it might have been injuries. It might have been maybe there was just a little bias in the voting. I don't know. And again, Chase Utley, a great player, great memory from my childhood. But Dustin Pedroia, to me, mindset alone. If Dustin Pedroia was in Philadelphia, I feel like he would have the exact same success that he had in Boston. I don't think that was a situational thing. I think that's a player thing. And I think if Petey was on the 2008, 2009 teams, I think you guys go back to back. And that's no discredit to Chase Utley. But Dustin knows how to win in the World Series because he's got 2 of them.
Yes, but what Utley did in 09, like, he quite literally could not have done anything more. But then again, I'm not going to get into, I don't want to discredit Dustin Pedroia anymore because I love the guy to death, and I completely agree. Flip-flop the careers, or if Chase was in Boston or Dustin was in Philly, they would both have the same amount of success. Maybe one has more world championships. That's just all situational, but they would have succeeded anywhere they go. So now it's going to be up to you guys. You guys let us know in the comments on YouTube, TikTok, who is the better player, Chase Utley or Dustin Pedroia?
Yeah, I always love talking about my childhood idol. Yeah, pretty much. I was just going to say, I always love talking about my idol. There's nothing better than talking baseball, especially about the guy who got me loving the game in the first place. Dustin Pedroia should be in the Hall of Fame. and I think he will be. It's going to take a couple ballots, but I think at some point he will be in the Hall of Fame. And if Chase Utley's a Hall of Famer, and so is Dustin Pedroia, for the exact same reasons that you gave me, but just reverse it ever so slightly. That's all.
Gotcha. Well, this was fun. Tomorrow is going to be the episode with Sheffield Shuffler. We're going to record it at 11. And God willing, my connection's okay. Everything went well this episode when I went on data. So maybe AT&T wasn't lying to me. Crossing my fingers, knocking on wood, because that would be a disaster if the connection messed up tomorrow. But hopefully it doesn't. And then me and Ryan will be back sometime later this week. No news has dropped, so we're probably going to keep doing these fun little videos until something breaking news happens, because we can't talk about nothing. But we're probably going to come back with a lot of these episodes to where I have a player, he is a player, we debate, you guys debate. This is what's fun about baseball in a community. We have different opinions, but we all share the same love of baseball. So for me, I hope you guys have a good one. Ryan, nice talking baseball with you always.
Always a pleasure, my friend. You be safe. Have fun on the interview tomorrow. I'll be sure to catch it as soon as I get off of work tomorrow. Also, be aware for a solo pod from your boy, since the Red Sox just re-upped Cutter Crawford. Woo. I'm going to go over the rest of the team, and then we'll talk about it that way. That's probably going to be Thursday or Friday, and then following that will be another pod between me and Owen. But until then, all of you, enjoy the rest of your days, enjoy the rest of your weeks. Owen, I'll catch you on the next one.
Later, buddy.